Hi everyone, welcome to today's episode of the Digital Edge Advice Line, the first in our new series where we answer your burning questions. As always, I am your host, Lisa Morton, Director of Marketing at Incubeta, and today I am so excited to be sitting down with Andy Arnett, Incubeta's UK Head of Search, where we will be discussing LLMs and how they're impacting your search. Also, Andy takes some time to answer what are the best practices and how to prepare for the future. Now, without further ado, let's dive in. Welcome, Andy. Thanks so much for joining us today. We're really excited to have you.
Hi, thanks for having me.
Now, the big topic on everyone's lips at the moment and the question we keep getting from our clients is zero-click search. And how is this changing search behavior and how is it impacting businesses? Can you tell us just in a few words what is happening in search right now?
Well, I think zero-click searches has been a trend that's been going on for a while, and AI overviews and AI mode has really supercharged that trend in Google. I think now it's about 60% of searches are zero-click, and AI overviews are visible in about 15 to 20% of searches. So there's a really big change in content going from sort of the open web into platforms like Google, and that's kind of aligned with this shift towards LLMs driving a lot of disruption in the industry, and changing user behavior to be a lot more conversational and less focused singular queries.
I mean, I've absolutely noticed this in my own search far more than I have ever before in the past 6 months, where I just type in my question to Google and don't click on anything. I don't need to. It's all right there, which I can only imagine the devastation this can cause for some brands who rely on people coming to their site. So why do businesses need to be all over this?
Well, as you suggested, there's now kind of a lot less of that research is done by the consumer, and there's more mediation via AI. So what was previously your classic 10 blue links search engine results page is now much more conversational, and there's much more curation going on by the AIs. So really optimizing to be discovered by AI through both organic and through paid formats such as AI Max is increasingly important. And because the answers are so much fewer, the stakes are much higher.
Now, are there ways that businesses can mitigate that? Like, what steps should we be taking right now?
Well, I think this is kind of an evolution of a lot of the principles of search, whether across sort of paid and organic. It's really designing for selection, making your pages as easily interpreted both in natural language and in terms of the structure of data, really clear answer first pages, clear use of headlines, and obviously on the technical side, allowing bots from all LLMs to call your site. Then looking at the paid side, it really is imperative that brands double down on things that we've been talking about for a while now. It's value-based bidding, first-party data, and giving AI algorithms all of the information they need to go out and find the right customer amid a landscape where search behavior is changing so much, and the sort of queries used are increasingly disconnected from our old school keyword structures. And then really beyond that, it's looking at what is going on a brand site. So I think we can start really treating pages as part of the ad infrastructure. We look at AI Max now pulling, almost using assets, ad copy and landing pages as targeting. So really making sure that that a brand's pages are optimized for discovery will drive benefits both in terms of paid search and organic search.
Now, you talked about giving LLMs the information that they need so that they can pull from your site. What is it that LLMs are looking for? How do they choose their information sources? And how can brands really target towards that and adjust their strategy?
So I think much of this, particularly on Google, is very similar to um, traditional best practices. So it's your EEAT, experience, expertise, authoritativeness, to build trust. But I think looking at kind of a more macro level, when we look at how answers surface on ChatGPT, for example, GPT is very reliant on Bing for its search results. So it's what optimizing for Bing now is also optimizing for ChatGPT. So it's really important to stay abreast of the developments in the industry and how each model is accessing data and structuring data. Um, yeah, I think that's what I would encourage. I would encourage brands to continue to look at best practices in a similar sort of way, but take a slant that looks across different models.
It sounds like reviews as well are now more important than ever.
Absolutely. So I think this is where digital PR and sort of community building are really important, because that element and component of research that users would have been doing on their own is now automated at a much greater scale. So you have ChatGPT being heavily reliant on sort of Reddit results, but also on the partnerships that they developed with certain publications and publication networks. So all of that sort of earned PR is super important in how the LLM will or LLMs will conceive of you and your brand.
So, what role does keyword research play in AI driven search world?
I think there's a couple of shifts. One's kind of from the keywords to sort of intents or tasks. So increasingly, it's kind of going from keywords to topics and trying to understand what questions users are asking and the problems they're trying to solve, rather than individual specific keywords. And in the paid space, it's kind of moving from positive targeting to negative targeting, because you know so much of keyword management now is being able to control and prune back the terms uh, that AI Max, for example, is bidding on, using a judicious negative approach rather than the old school approach of having X, Y, and Z exact match term that would specifically target search terms.
We've been talking a lot about measurement recently. We recently did a Digital Edge podcast with Ash Rain. It's so important that we understand what our marketing is doing for us. So, how, with this change in search behavior and LLMs, how should we be measuring our search?
I think the episode with Ash was really engaging. Yeah, I thought that was great, and I think it raised a lot of important points. I think we've kind of, as a search practitioner and someone with a search background, I've always kind of leaned on attribution modeling as my source of truth. But I think if we're being honest with ourselves, it's always been a bit of a flawed methodology, particularly when we're looking at things from a very last click perspective. But now, with sort of privacy changes in the industry and erosion of data, um, even even though we have some solutions such as Meta's CAPI or Google's enhanced conversions, Google's consent mode, there is still a considerable erosion of that data, and it's made an imperfect method of measuring performance even more flawed. So, yeah, I think usage of media mix modeling to understand high level performance is super important. And yeah, we'd implore all of our clients to be investigating that, calibrating those with incrementality studies, but taking a sort of more search specific view. I think the age old problem of paid and organic cannibalization hasn't gone away, and I'd argue it's only getting worse, particularly as you move away from those 10 blue links. It becomes harder to understand when your ad is showing, when an organic listing is showing, when your competitors are showing, and that's something that I'm really proud of our solution at Incubeta. Our seamless search solution solves for by taking a statistical approach that uh, can supersede those changes in behavior by modeling the impact rather than simply turning off an ad when there's a competitor isn't present, which is a much more rudimentary way to manage that sort of problem.
So you talked about paid search and organic search cannibalization. Now, this is going to have a big impact on our paid search campaigns. And what is the impact we're seeing?
I think there's a big change going on in terms of user behavior. So query shape is evolving, queries are becoming much longer and multi-intent, and even multimedia. Circle to search is becoming a really big thing on Android, and it's meaning that we have to be able to appear across many more terms and types of terms um, through paid search, which really means leaning into new ways of targeting, ways of accessing those placements and those terms through functionality such as AI Max.
And just one last question. What are the risks for marketers if they don't take LLMs seriously?
Well, I'd say, as you've mentioned already, search is not just temporary links. It's now more of a verdict provided by LLMs. So if brands can take the first mover advantage and really start to own this space, then I can envisage a virtuous circle for the winners because it's such a much more hotly contested space.
Brilliant. Thank you so much, Andy. It was great having you today.
Thanks for having me.
I hope you all enjoyed today's episode of the Digital Edge Advice Line, the first in our series. Now, if you have questions about your marketing strategy that you would like answered, please email us at thedigitaledge@incubeta.com, and we may include it in our next episode. Until then, I am Lisa Morton. We will see you next time. Bye.